Hello everyone and welcome to the 2021 Ford Explorer XLT. And the reason why I'm testing out this vehicle today is that although the 2020 model year was the introduction of the 6th generation of Ford's midsize SUV, they brought along a couple changes that they thought were worthwhile to give me the keys and play around with it for a week. Those changes, on the inside, we've got a new interior color as seen here. This is the light slate. And on the outside, we have what is known as the XLT Sport Appearance Package. And that's giving you the dark gray element all around the vehicle. So up front, you'll see that the grille and the badging is dark gray, the gray plastic within the black cladding, and on the rear, you've got a gray decal as well. So even though I wasn't able to test out the 2020 model year and the first year of the 6th generation, I want to just lightly cover the big, most necessary changes that you'll need to know in context of how this vehicle performs. So with the 6th generation, all new platform, a rear-wheel drive-based mid-size SUV platform with longitudinally mounted engines, which was created for this Explorer and the Lincoln Aviator. We've got a new interior design, and it's obvious that the exterior design is just the next evolution for the Ford Explorer, and I like how they did that. You're obviously in the new vehicle, but the main design traits have stayed the same, so it's instantly recognizable as an Explorer. Living with this vehicle for a week, I can happily admit that there's some really great things about this vehicle, but there is a few too many problems that outweigh the positives for me, and that's why I find this particular vehicle I'm driving to be a rather poor value proposition, and maybe in the specific case of this vehicle, not all that well made. So let's get into the positives first of all. Let's start with the drivetrain. With a longitudinally mounted engine and a rear-wheel based platform, you've got some inherently good things with the dynamics of a vehicle just on the chassis setup alone. In Canada, however, you're only going to get all-wheel drive with this vehicle, and Ford labels it intelligent four-wheel drive on the screen here and on the badge on the boot. But from the basis of me driving it about that I have for this past week, I would say this is definitely an all-wheel drive vehicle as opposed to a four-wheel drive vehicle. In this base model that I'm testing out, we have the 2.3 litre turbocharged four-cylinder engine that has 300 horsepower and 310 pound-feet of torque. It can tow up to 5,300 pounds, and I really think those numbers are incredibly impressive. My absolute favorite thing about driving this Explorer is how quick it feels. You look forward to an on-ramp because I'm sure when you mash the throttle in this vehicle, you could really embarrass some much more expensive and much more powerful vehicles. Adding on to the fact that it can tow quite a good amount in its class, then I don't think you're truly lacking anything with this small entry-level motor. You've got a couple V6 options though further up in the range. There's the 3.3 litre naturally aspirated hybrid and two output variants of the 3 litre twin-turbo EcoBoost V6. And all of these engines come with automatic stop-start, which if you don't like, it's just simply pressing that button down below. All of these new Explorers come with the 10-speed automatic transmission that was developed alongside GM, and we've seen it in quite a few of GM's and Ford's latest vehicles, and I'll get back to that subject later on in this video. So far, this vehicle is enjoyable to be behind the wheel of. Steering actually has a fair amount of feel to it. With this Ford Explorer, I really do get the sense that Ford built a vehicle that you want to be in the driver's seat for, and yes, the engine really isn't all that refined, and the exhaust noise is nothing to brag about. Actually, on the note of exhausts, in case you didn't know, with these new generation of Ford Explorers, the exhaust actually comes out from beneath the pipe. Odd design detail, but the reason Ford did it was whenever you look at a normal exhaust pipe and how it gets blacked out around the rim as it builds up with all of the gases and solids that come out of the exhaust, and it builds up and makes it look dirty essentially. Ford's eliminating that problem. Anyways, getting a little bit ahead of myself there. Other things that I like about this Ford Explorer is that inside it is an incredibly spacious vehicle. Up front, if you're 6 foot, no issues at all. Second row, even with this full-size panoramic sunroof, I've got plenty of headroom back there. Knee space, footroom's all really good. And with the Explorer, it's either this 6-seater configuration, or you can option up for the 7-seater bench seat option. And with this 6-seater, you'll see that you've got some cup holders and some storage space built into the floor. Third row space in the Explorer could be the absolute best in class. I find that even me, I can happily sit in that third row for a good period of time, and I especially like how there's a wide door opening and you have quite a nice plastic base plate where you can step in and out of the third row easily without really straining yourself. So if you're looking in this vehicle for interior space alone, I think the Ford Explorer is going to be at the top of your list in respects to that metric. Rear trunk space is nothing special in this class of car. You can easily fold down the third row seats though, giving you a very flat, wide floor, and there's some additional storage underneath the false floor and a little bit of lockable storage in the side. So with everything that I've mentioned, those are the positives of the Ford Explorer, but I think there are a few too negatives in this vehicle for me to really put this at the top of the leaderboard in this class of vehicles. So, problems that I have. This 10-speed transmission, I've driven plenty of Fords and GMs with this transmission before and had no problems, but in this vehicle right now, it is incredibly clunky. I've been driving about 2 hours today doing all the filming that I need to do, and it's still ratcheting from gears up and gears down. I haven't even attempted trying to shift manually with the paddle shifters because it just really isn't refined. It just doesn't feel finished. Adding on to that thought, the build quality in this Ford Explorer is far from great, even from Ford. They've done some much better work in the past. I mean, I'm looking directly in front of me and I can see at least 4 components of plastic that don't fit properly, but comparing it to its competitors in this price range, this is almost unacceptable. Adding on to that element of build quality, a couple times this week starting up the Explorer, there has been this really rattly metallic noise from the exhaust. I'm going to play a clip for you here. Now, I mention all of these things to not put slight towards Ford, but to try and help you, the consumer, because if I'm experiencing this in a brand new vehicle, I've done about 600 kilometers of the 636 kilometers on the odometer, and I'm experiencing new car problems like this, there's a good chance you are too. And maybe it is just teething issues. Maybe after 2,000 kilometers, the plastics start to fit better, the exhaust doesn't rattle, but I can't tell you how many vehicles I've reviewed in my time being a journalist and have never experienced a mechanical issue like that. And even though I'm not offended by the design of this Ford Explorer's cabin, it's just filled with a varying degree of hard and soft plastics. There's nothing really particularly joyful to look at or interact with. I mean, the 8-inch screen with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto is reliable and simple, and you can learn how to use it within a minute. And climate control down below, uncluttered, not at all complicated to use, but it's far from inspiring or interesting. Storage space down below is pretty good, and the door cards have enough space to fit one of my large 1-liter size water bottles. But just being in here, it feels very much like it's an appliance more than anything else. And unfortunately, the elephant in the room with this vehicle is its retail price. So I'm in the base model, the XLT, and I've got a couple options. The Sport Appearance Pack, like I've already mentioned, the panoramic sunroof, and the exterior paint. And all of that brings this vehicle up to a price of about 55,000 Canadian dollars. And when you keep that in mind, and you think about how the majority of its competitors are maxing out at that price range, so they're most expensive top of the line models with all of the kit, if they're getting to that kind of number, this Ford Explorer does not feel like a good value proposition whatsoever. The practicality of this vehicle is great, the driving dynamics are fairly good, but of all of its main rivals that are so much nicer to be in, a lot less driver focused, so they're a lot more comfortable, I just have a really hard time coming up for a justification to go out and own this Explorer over its competitors, except of course if interior space is the most important thing for you. So that's where I want to conclude this video. The Ford Explorer is a decent car and quite a good step up over its predecessor, but there's no value proposition to this at all. There's so many more of its competitors I'd rather be in, and judging the build quality of this model I'm testing out, it does leave me even more hesitant to recommend it to the buyer, the potential buyer, such as yourself. So that's been everything from me on Hot Cars. Thank you so much for taking the time to watching this video. Please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and hopefully we'll see you on the channel again soon.